Hi, my name is Prince, born and raised in East London. Over the years, I have seen the area change dramatically from a culturally rich and working class area into a gentrified play park. In this short film, we will be discovering how Shoreditch has been changed for the better and worse. In the early 1900s, Jewish immigrants came in abundance to the East End of London, escaping anti-Semitism and fascist movements from mainland Europe, such as the anti-Semitic movement brought about by the Nazi rule of Germany and other European countries, including Lithuania. An example of this change that's still standing today is Sunday's Row Synagogue, which was originally a French Huguenot church in the 1800s. The Jewish community brought with it knowledge of flavours and culture, the most famous of which being bagels. Bakeries such as the ones on Brick Lane are survivors of the times and represent some of what's left of the Jewish population.
Hi.
Hey, so could you just tell me about a bit of the history about your business here?
Yeah, my uncle, father, and their good friends moved here from Israel, and we moved to this part of London. That's where most immigrants or whatever, they first moved to this part of London usually, and so started baking.
So how long have you been working in this?
Me and myself?
Yeah.
I've always come. My family, my father's run the place for about 50 years now, or just over 50 years. And ever since I was young, I always used to come on school holidays when I was working properly. 7 years. Don't really know, to be honest. A few years now.
In terms of gentrification, would you say that your business has been affected by it in any way?
Not really. I mean, as more people move to London, demand increases, and with demand, price. So, yeah, I mean, in the area, it's been the price has been driven up due to like the increase in population. But for us, I mean, we try to keep our prices as reasonable as possible. You know, like we keep our doors are open. We don't have any secrets here, and we also reflect that in our prices. So, really, it hasn't really affected us too much. So, we try to be reasonable here.
Over time, London's main Jewish community moved to areas such as Golders Green, and Brick Lane has now become home to a largely Bangladeshi community, which is reflected by many restaurants, local shops, and mosques, especially in the Whitechapel end of Brick Lane. The creation of Banglatown in the 1950s shows how the Bangladeshi immigrants settled here. Sujan Haldry is an 18-year-old ex-Shoreditch resident. Here's what he has to say about gentrification and how it affected him and his family.
My name is Sajan, I'm 18 and right now I live in South London, but I was born in Whitechapel in East London and I grew up around Bethnal Green, Shoreditch area. I grew up with most of my family around me, so like my aunties, my cousins, and my extended family. We all lived like down the street together, or lived in the same house to each other. Where we lived, it was like a council estate where we lived in, and we only had 2 bedrooms in the flat, so we did have to share rooms and all that stuff. In regards to gentrification, it has really transformed the area. Before Bethnal Green, it used to be a really run-down area, and there was quite a lot of crime in the area. But in some ways, gentrification has helped, but also has had its disadvantages. The area has changed a lot. The rents are much more higher because my family and I lived in a flat in the council estate, we were like really heavily reliant on the council, and it took us almost 10 years to move out. And that was due to the high cost around Shoreditch in East London. Like, we couldn't buy a house anywhere near where we grew up, or where we knew our families were from. The rent was really high that we couldn't find a house in Bethnal Green.
Due to the rising price of housing and rent, they had no choice but to move out. Astoundingly, 16% of the houses in the borough are overcrowded, which aligns with Shahan's story. Originally, the Tower Hamlets Council rented out low-cost council flats, which reflected the low average incomes of the area. The Right to Buy scheme allows residents to buy their council house in instalments. This began to limit the amount of available social housing, and the problem is still evident today, with 20,000 people on the council housing waiting list in Tower Hamlets alone in 2016. A shocking 49% of children in the Tower Hamlets borough are living in poverty, even though it includes Canary Wharf, London's central business district. This leads to Tower Hamlets having the largest ratio of pay inequality in London, between the 20th and 80th percentile. Yet businesses such as the Serial Killer Cafe are charging £3.80 for a single bowl of cereal just around the corner. The Serial Killer Cafe have been subjected to mass protests, such as the one in September 2015, where an angry mob of 200 local residents and protesters vandalised the shopfront. This was due to the manager not being aware that the borough of Tower Hamlets was in fact one of the poorest in London, after an interview with Channel 4. Today, Tower Hamlets is still struggling, even though it is one of the most ethnically diverse boroughs in London.
I'm sorry, I'll try harder. My pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure. Everything is just fine.
Here now, a lot of the rich can only afford pure products. A lot of the products nowadays got a lot of chemicals in it and everything. At the same time, these products here are all handmade and they're pure chemicals. Yeah, they're pure. No, so they're pure products. They're pure natural ingredients. But how it runs is that the natural ingredients of nowadays is very expensive, and only the rich can afford it. These products here are handmade and they're for £1. So at the same time, everybody can afford it. So not only the millionaire and the businessman can afford our products, but also the poor man on the street, jump on the road, they ain't got no money on the budget. Now they can come and get real honey, real coconut, and put it on their skin. And if you've got bad skin, like our turmeric creams and stuff like that, it'll be good for you. It's not just the rich now that can afford exclusive handmade cosmetic products. Now, the people on the budget can too. So this store is that prime example, and the ethics behind the store is so people are able to afford a good life and afford something nice, no matter how little or big it is. You know, gentrification. Gentrification, yeah, for real, it's real, it's real, it's real, it's real, it's real.
I've been working here almost 40 years now. This shop actually used to be a sports shop. We took the shop over from him, and we brought the leather jackets into the shop. And we've been here for about 40 plus years.
So in terms of middle class individuals inhabiting London, how has that affected?
He hasn't done any much good for us, but he has changed Brick Lane over the years. Because before, years and years ago, 25, 30 years ago, nobody wanted to walk into Brick Lane. I think it's a pretty good thing. It's a pretty good thing. Basically, what is that? Before this used to be a rundown. Brick Lane was a rundown area. I mean, like I said, nobody ever wanted to work in Brick Lane. It was a junkyard. But now, obviously, you can see yourself. It's pretty good out there. New generation, new plans, new properties.
I'm definitely not happy with what's happened to the area. It's affected my sales over the last year, 2 years since the new block of flats, for example, around the corner. You have flats selling for over £1 million. You have people trying to get their cars into car parks where they've spent a lot of money on the flats, and you can't blame them. But the road's supposed to be shut, so it's supposed to be a market area. And of course they're not happy with the market setting up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning when they're living in what they think is an affluent area. The other thing that's hit us very hard are the high rents now being asked for the shops behind us. So whereas before you'd have small little Indian restaurants, cheap shops, you've now got high-end fashion shops paying high rent, who again are not happy with the market in front of them. So there's a lot of infighting now on the street between the traders and the shops. And unfortunately, it's the more expensive the rents become, the more expensive the flats become. It will kill the market off eventually.
Now comes the question, how long till the rest of London becomes Shoreditchified? And what will happen to the remnants of its working class citizens?